Welcome to the Leadmore podcast. I'm your host, John T. Meyer. The Leadmore podcast is the show where we sit down with leaders of today to help inspire and create more leaders. Now, if this is your first time listening to the Leadmore podcast, there are two main themes or theses of the Leadmore podcast, and it's one, that the world needs more leaders, and two, that leadership doesn't always look the way we think it does. You don't have to be a CEO. You don't have to go to Harvard. You don't have to be a white man named John, like me, to be a leader. We see leadership, and we've shown it and heard it on this show time and time again in all different places. My favorite thing is when I reach out to people and say, hey, I want you to come on the show and tell us your story. And they say, me? I'm a leader on the Leadmore podcast? I said, yes, you're doing amazing things. And so that's why this show exists. And today, on our last episode of 2021, how did we get here? We're going to look back, look at today, and look in the future. This is a look past, present, and the future of the Leadmore podcast here at the very end of 2021. Just with me, your host, John T. Meyer. I'm going to give you some stats. I'm going to give you some announcements of things to come and some closing thoughts as we wrap up another just wild year in 2021. So with that, we'll cue out the intro music and on to the show. Ready? 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody. John Meyer here. It is Wednesday, December 29th. Obviously, I'm recording this just the day before we put out the show. A little bit late, but that's okay. It was the right time to sort of get through the holidays and now enter this reflection mode, as I usually do at the end of the year, where I examine the year, I look back, I think about where I want to be 12 months from now in the future. I choose my words for the year. I look at the areas of personal and business, family, faith, my fitness, all those 5 different categories and buckets, set goals, all that fun stuff. I've talked about that. If you followed me before on Twitter or social media, you've heard me say that. But today I wanted to do that sort of in the spirit of the Leadmore podcast. So I'm here in Phoenix, Arizona. We're so lucky, Paige, my wife, her parents live in Phoenix. So every year about this time, we get a little escape from the cold back in South Dakota. We get to warm up. As I speak, as I'm recording this podcast right now, that my daughters are waiting for me to be done so we can go swim in the little pool in the backyard, which honestly, it is 54 degrees here in Phoenix. So relatively not that warm. I think the locals think we're crazy. But compared to back home, probably fairly warm. And our girls, I swear, they'll swim in anything as long as it's not frozen. So that's what's going on in my life. I hope you had a great holidays and are ready for an incredible and amazing 2022. I'm an optimist, but I think it's going to be the best year ever. So let's first think a little bit about the Leadmore podcast and where we've come here on our last episode 52. It's technically episode 82, but episode 52 of the year. One of my goals in my notebook for 2021 was to do 52 straight episodes of the Leadmore podcast. And frankly, I'm a little bit shocked that we pulled it off. I mean, a year ago, I did the first one with Governor Dugard, took a few weeks off as we were figuring it out. And then we rattled off 29 straight episodes. So I knew I could do it. I just needed to go a little bit further. And there were times in the year where I think I was starting to hit a wall. I wasn't sure if I wanted to keep going or if we should, who should be on the next guest. And then we really hit a sweet spot late summer, fall. And I think we just rattled off a ton of great episodes. And first, let me explain the we part, because that's super important. It's my end to the third team of Nick, Nate, and Knock. Total coincidence, but a few shout outs have to be given first. Nick Lorang. Nick is an incredible team member, colleague of mine at Lemonly. Of course, if you listen to last week's episode, my time at Lemonly has come to a close, but hope to still be able to collaborate with Nick. He helps sort of be my editor, think through what who we want to talk about and the goals and the themes and how we should say it. And he also, props to him, he does the little album art in Canva, whips that up. Not a designer, but pulls that off. Knock is an incredible leader in our community of Sioux Falls. She helps me book guests, brainstorm guests, also sort of an editor in terms of thinking of themes. And we need to get her on the show, really. And then thirdly, Nate Pepple. Nate is an incredible young man. He's been on the show as a guest. This show doesn't exist without Nate. He has taught me so much about audio and about podcasting, and he makes this show, he makes it go, right? He makes it sound professional. He makes it sound good. So thank you to all three of those people. There's no way we rattle off 52 episodes without those folks. So thank you. So let's look at those episodes a little bit. What did we do this year? So almost 15,000 people listened to the Leadmore podcast this year. Thank you, thank you, thank you. One thing that's really cool about this show is, and it's meant to be, being a weekly show, it's very much a cherry pick type of show. People will pick a friend that they know. They'll maybe listen to something that I have if I do a solo episode, or they have never heard of the show, but the person, the guest, shares it on social media. And that's okay. But that being said too, we also have people like my mom who listen to every single episode. So thank you, Mom. Thank you, everybody. So 15,000 people, incredible. We've had listeners from every single state except Maine. Maine, where are you at? So if somebody has a friend in Maine, send them this episode and have them listen to it so that we can check off all 50 states. We also have every continent except Antarctica. Maybe Sarah Carnes was a guest on the show. She's going to Antarctica next month. I'm going to send this to her when she's in Antarctica and make her listen so we can check that off. A couple other fun stats. We had 26 males. We had 18 females. 44 guests in total last year. I did some solo episodes as well. 33 we would describe as sort of C-suite leaders. 20 of those who either currently led or have led the company that they founded. So original founders. We had 4 folks from nonprofits, 4 folks in higher ed. We had 3 folks from city, state, and federal government, and 2 that we currently know of, teaser, who are running in their first election for public office. Could be more. Out of the other 42 guests, we interviewed journalists, community advocates, poets, and a pastor as well. And so very, very interesting. Let's take a look at the top 5 most popular episodes of 2021. So by far and away, the top episode of all time on October 21st, 2021 was Tim Scott. And what an incredible sort of bright line or testimonial for the power of a good story, right? So we had Senator John Thune. I tried to get him to break some news on the show and admit whether he was going to run or not. Couldn't get that done. Still a great episode. But Tim Scott had 13 times more downloads than a U.S. senator. That validates to me, leadership doesn't always look the way we think it does. And there are just so many incredible people leading in our communities, in our states, in our country that need to hear their story. Tim's story is obviously super incredible. It's an emotional episode. If you haven't listened to it, I would encourage you to go listen to that one. Number 2 was Billy and Kelsey Sutton, the husband and wife duo. Billy did run for South Dakota governor. They have the Billy Sutton Leadership Institute doing a ton of great work across our state and in rural communities. Number 3, another husband and wife duo was Chris Maxwell and Molly Wisegram. They are the 4th most listened episode of all time. Billy and Kelsey are the 3rd most. And they were back in March of this year when Molly released her book about the incredible journey they have gone through some of Chris's health struggles, to the point where all he was able to do was blink his eyes. He was essentially could not move in a hospital bed for months on end. They have children, and what that meant through their family, through their marriage. Just incredible couple. Go check out that episode. The 4th most listened episode, and the 5th of all time, was my wife, Paige Pearson Meyer. We did that in our living room at home, and we got into topics about our marriage and leading in the community, and how we want to sort of model leadership to our 2 young girls and our family. Also another emotional episode. Paige did a phenomenal job. And then number 5, most downloaded of 2021, was Wes Eisenhower back in March, a local Sioux Falls artist, musician. We talked about how he released his first NFT. Spoiler alert, eventually I went on to buy that NFT of Wes's. I think it might be the first NFT in South Dakota. We're not exactly sure, but I think it very well could be. I'm sure you'll hear more around Web3 and crypto from me in 2022. But another fun episode there with Wes. So those were the top 5 most downloaded episodes. And I'm looking at all these other stats that we picked. Yeah, I think those are the most interesting things as far as the third most city, after Sioux Falls, Brookings, the third most city comes from La Vista, Nebraska. I don't know. I don't think I know anyone from La Vista, Nebraska, but if you're listening to this, shoot me a tweet at John T. Meyer, because thank you. And I don't know who's in La Vista, Nebraska, but you guys love the Leadmore podcast, and I appreciate that. All right, so that was the past. That was looking back, 82 episodes in. I can't believe we've done this. I mean, it's just such a testimonial to just keep building, keep producing content, keep telling stories, keep interviewing awesome people, and good stuff will happen. Now, the present is simply where we are now, here at this interesting time, which is the end of the year, before we look to a new year. And this will be a short section, but I wanted to just share a few thoughts of where my head is at right now in this time of year. So I've been using this line. I've given a couple talks this fall when COVID wasn't too bad and we were able to meet in person at a couple conferences. And I've been talking a lot about building an anti-fragile mindset. So this comes from Nassim Taleb. He's author of a book called Anti-Fragile. And the concept is that some things get better with shock and uncertainty, risk and adventure. And I love this idea that we need to make ourselves more anti-fragile. So when unexpected things, global pandemics, crazy, climate change, politics, friendships, relationships, from big macro global stuff to small little micro personal things happen, which they will. Those are not going away. Instead of retracting and weakening, we actually lean into it and become stronger. We embrace the risk and the uncertainty, and we become anti-fragile and thus more powerful, more stronger, more confident in us as people, as society, as communities, as groups, and all the titles that you use, as CEOs, as athletes, as brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, fathers and mothers. And so that's sort of been the soapbox I've been on lately of becoming more anti-fragile. And I want you to think about that because I'm convinced that the world is not slowing down. I never know if we're supposed to say like post-COVID, pre-COVID. I mean, certainly pre-COVID. We're definitely not post-COVID. Still in a pandemic. It might become an endemic and we just live with this. Who knows? I'm not a scientist and this is not a science podcast. But I am convinced the world is crazy. It's moving fast and it's not going to slow down. It's only going to continue. So let's move beyond the idea of back to normal, embrace new normal, and become more anti-fragile. So that's my first point I want to share. The second point for the present as we prepare ourselves for 2022 is I want you to set a goal, a resolution, a habit, whatever word you use to set as you plan your new year, to become somebody's cheerleader. I think the best way to win in 2022 is going to be to help your friends win. Now, this isn't a new concept, but we live in this world where we all need a cheerleader, somebody in our corner. The biggest takeaway, if you listen to last week's episode on my last day at Lemonly, the thing I kept thinking about over the course of about 3-4 days where I received just amazing letters, thank you notes, gifts, messages, this party, all these things from my team, is that when you feel something about somebody, when you think something about them, when you're grateful, when you're appreciative, make sure you tell them. Make sure you let them know, because we often don't do that. And in a way, it felt a little bit as I left Lemonly like I was, it sounds weird, but like I was dying, right? Like it was like this tribute to me, the CEO, and all these people said these incredible things and wrote these amazing letters. And thank God I'm not, right? And I can still be friends with these people and keep in touch. But on my last day, they really felt like they wanted to share these things. And what I learned from that is incredibly grateful and so humbled and blessed to lead that group of people, but also that I can do that more often to other people. And we don't have to wait until somebody's funeral or someone's last day at work or till they move to another state or country. So if you feel that about somebody, tell them. If you're proud of somebody, tell them. If you need to give somebody a little boost, send them a thank you card, buy them a cup of coffee, show up at their door, give them a hug. I think our world needs some more kindness, and we all need to be somebody's cheerleader. I would encourage you to be several people, but for sure, at minimum, pick somebody who's starting something, who's maybe trying to grow as a leader, who's starting a company, who's going to run their first 5K, who's entering a new relationship, starting a new college program, whatever it might be. Somebody in your life needs you to be their cheerleader. And so I'm asking you, I'm actually challenging you to step up and to do that. And that is what I mean when I say that we all are leaders. Being someone's cheerleader, being in their corner, pushing them, supporting them, that's a leader. That's exactly what a leader does every single day, whether it be a big Fortune 500 or just a friendship of two people. So we need more of that. All right. That's my soapbox on the present of Leadmore and what's in my mind. Now let's talk future. So we are entering a new year. We have recorded 82 episodes of the Leadmore podcast, one every single week in 2021. We achieved our goal. But one thing we've learned about the show is the sort of randomness of which episodes become more popular or less, like we talked about earlier. It's pretty unpredictable, which is cool. But also the show does tend to be a little bit more of like a Midwest show. A lot of people in South Dakota, North Dakota, Minnesota, Iowa, Nebraska. But then we also have this mix of what I call sort of like tool belt episodes. Robbie Crabtree talking about storytelling, or Andy Sparks talking about coaching, things that leaders need to know how to do. And so in 2022, we are going to go to a bi-weekly setup at the Leadmore podcast, meaning we'll still release episodes on Thursdays, just not every Thursday. We think that we can give these episodes a little bit more time to breathe, get a little bit more time to be listened, to be downloaded, so people don't feel like they have to try to catch up and listen to every single episode. And we're going to have a mixture of these more local, regional guests, try to do these, if possible, in person, where we can also sometimes have video, like we did with Senator Thune's episode, or just a little bit more production and setup, and then mix in these sort of tool belt episodes that we can all use to make ourselves better leaders, where you can take away a framework, a skill, a lesson, a tool, a technique, essentially. So we're going to go to every other Thursday, which means we'll be recording 26 episodes is the goal for 2022. And I'm super excited for that. I think it's going to allow us to make a more high quality product, while also, frankly, just giving me more time to explore whatever's next. I don't aspire to be a full-time podcaster, but this project is one of my most favorite things I've done in the last 2 years. So I want to keep doing it. I don't expect Leadmore to become any sort of full-time job, but I do love to create content. I've created content for over a decade and intend to keep doing so. I might even be creating some other content in 2022, videos or podcasts, possibly about other topics. So stay tuned for that. But we're going to go to a bi-weekly episode. We're going to focus on sort of those two types and mix both in the flow and in the format. And the last note here on the future is we want your feedback. And so we want to continue to hear, whether it's through an iTunes review, you can tweet me at John T. Meyer, or you can email me and let us know what you love about the show. I hear these comments when I run into people, and it's I'm filled with gratitude, and so it's so rewarding, but also it really helps. It really helps to hear, hey, I listened to that and I loved this part, or I really love that one. And that's actually one of the most unpredictable things, is how many people have different favorite episodes, I guess is the best way to say that. It's all over the map in terms of people, and I love that about the show. That means that it resonates, that different leaders speak to different people for different reasons, and that's perfect. Whew. All right. That's it. I know that was sort of a lot there, but we wanted to look back on where we've been, kind of be where our feet are, which is one of my favorite lines, as leaders today, as we finish a crazy 2021 and enter a new 2022. Challenge you to become more anti-fragile while also becoming a cheerleader for somebody. And then wanted to give you a little bit of a preview of what's to come for Leadmore in 2022. So don't be alarmed. one Thursday when you update your podcast player and we aren't there. That'll just give you more time to catch up on all the episodes. You can go back to old ones, and there'll be a new one every other Thursday. And probably some other Leadmore content in between those Thursdays on social media. So with that, I hope you had a happy holidays. If you listen to this before the new year, have a great happy new year. If you listen to it in the new year, let's go. Get ready for the best year ever. We're going to be a cheerleader. I'm ready to be your cheerleader. I will gladly accept you as mine. And so with that, please take care and be well. All right, everybody, I still have to have an outro. So this is me, John T. Meyer, signing off here on episode 82 of the Leadmore podcast. Reminder, we drop episodes now every other Thursday, but on Thursdays, you can find them wherever you listen to podcast, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher. And one thing I just learned, Spotify now, you can leave reviews, just like Apple. We'd love to have a 5-star review over at Apple, but if you're a Spotify person like I am, when you click on the Leadmore podcast, there's a little star button and you can leave us a 5-star review. Please do that. I would love it. That helps people find the show. That helps more people listen to the show, and it gives us good feedback. So with all that, thank you as always for listening. Take care and be well.